Guys, hope you're doing well. Hey, I am nearing the end of a series dedicated to God setting me free from addiction to pornography. And one thing I want to talk about in this video that's essential, well, maybe not essential for you, but was definitely for me. Ultimately, these are testimony videos, not really instructional how-to videos. Although, of course, I'm hopeful that at least some of these are helpful. But today's video is about Numbers 25, the Numbers 25 moment. And give you some backstory on the text. In Numbers 25, basically, the Israelites are called to a very solemn assembly where they're being clearly rebuked by God, basically, and put under a curse because of their sexual sin. I think maybe it was to the Moabites. You know, they weren't supposed to marry outside of their own people, and they did. And so now they're under a curse. Let me keep going and get to the real point here. So they're all getting, rebuked, solemn, sad, despair, kind of like sobered by this unruly awakening to their own shortcomings. And here's what happens. In the middle of the assembly, some Israelite dude takes some Midianite woman into his tent to have sex with her. Literally. Like, they are in the middle of this assembly dedicated to their sexual sin and the punishments that they are receiving as a result of it. And this one Israelite guy thinks he's smart. He's like, hey, that's a sin related to intermarrying with the Moabites. But this is a Midianite. It's not a Moabite. It's like, as it relates to pornography addiction, it's like, I don't know if any of y'all have ever experienced this, and I'll try to describe it, although it's been some time, so this might not come out super articulately. But let's say there's something that you feel is wrong, and then there's something you feel is somehow less wrong because it wasn't the wrong thing. So let's say you think watching pornography is wrong, but then one day you're like, hey, I didn't watch pornography, I just masturbated. Or let's say you think going to a pornographic website is wrong, but you're like, hey, I didn't go to a porn site, I was just innocently browsing Instagram reels or YouTube videos, and somehow you're less offended by your own sin because you think it's in some way different than the sin that you're in. But the heart of the sin, lust, or disobedience to whatever God's asked you to do, hasn't changed. You're not so smart, like, you didn't crack the code. You just are being a goof and clearly overcommitting yourself to sin rather than to freedom. And so that's what happens in this story, but that's not where Numbers 25 ends. Numbers 25 ends when this dude named Phinehas, who's described as having a zeal for the Lord, I think maybe the only person, or maybe one of two people in the Bible, that is described as having this zeal. One second. Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good.
Good.
It's going in personal. Thanks. He goes into the tent. follows this dude and this Midianite into the tent with a spear, drives it through both of their bodies, kills them in the act of intercourse. And here's what happens. The curse is lifted. Like, that moment set the Israelites free from the curse, the bondage, the weight, the punishment of their sexual sin, because someone had the chutzpah to get out of it, right? Like, no, I'm not just going to stand here and watch this happen, just like the other thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are just staring at this sin like, oh no, oh shoot, he did that, oh man, I kind of want to do that too.
I don't know if you've heard, but we have our birthday back today, 47.
Cool.
Hot dogs and beer and steak ties.
No way. It's my son's birthday too.
Oh, really?
He turned 4. What did y'all turn?
6.
Nice. That's awesome.
Have a great one.
Hey, happy birthday, Beckham. My bank turned 6 today, guys. So Phineas had the nerve to say, no, I'm not going to stand and watch. I'm not just going to be like, oh no, I searched this ambiguous term and now some random content is coming to my eyeballs that's more sexualized than I necessarily strictly intended, but I knew this would happen. Oh no, maybe I'll just masturbate. Oh no, it happened. Sorry guys, this was my reality for so long. So I'm joyfully free, and I want you to be free too. And hopefully, I'm being a little bit playful, but hopefully you can see I guess like how subpar of an existence that is. Like, if you're gonna sin, if you're gonna disobey, at least own it. Don't like trick yourself into thinking that it's good or not as bad as it could have been, you know? Bleh. 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 So, spear through the people. So your Phineas moment, your Numbers 25 moment, what is it? For me, and you can't create this. Like, you can't, this one's a hard one to even talk about, because this is, in my opinion, not something you can just choose to do or a manufactured moment. But there was a particular moment for me, and to be clear, it was 7 years of trying to get free from pornography addiction. It was probably 15 years of being exposed to pornography. So, like, so I tried a lot of things, you know? And if I could have, at any earlier point, just decided to have this Numbers 25 moment where I say enough is enough, grab the spear, and drive it through the sin to kill it forever, like, I would have done it. And so again, I can't manufacture that desire, that zeal, that just the deep grief, deep pain, deep conviction that just refuses to remain in that situation any longer. And this happened to me, you know, kind of in my semester of getting deep breakthrough and freedom to new levels that I never knew before. One day I just go into the prayer shed and I'm so pissed off. Pardon my Italian, not quite French, but you know, a little bit of something. I was so pissed, and I didn't like choose sin that day, but I was just coming. It was just hitting me deeper. The ramifications of my addiction to pornography that I was coming out of, the pain that it caused, the things that it stole from me, the things that it stole from others. And similarly, at this point, it had probably been like a month since I had watched pornography. But there had been, in my last couple of years of addiction, it was very normal to have a long time, a month, 2 months, 3 months in between, I guess, like instances of turning to pornography or masturbation. And so at this point, I'm a month in, and I'm feeling encouraged-ish, but again, super angry that I'm even in this situation. And I'm also angry that I don't feel as though I have a clue, like, how to make sure that I never do it again. Like, I knew what it was like to live free in my heart. Like, it's not coming at me every day. It's not like I feel like I have a hard time battling temptation necessarily. I feel free, but I have felt free for a year or two now. But I'm obviously not, because I still have these moments where I choose this same sin. And so I'm angry about the big picture ramifications of my sin, and I'm also angry that I feel like I'm struggling to gain a deeper sense of clarity about my freedom from sin and my permanent freedom. Not just in the eyes of the Lord because I'm forgiven and washed clean, but in my behavior, in my choices. And so one day I go to the prayer room with all this heated zeal, and literally, it's literally, in my mind, I'm like, I am not leaving this prayer room, which was a shed in my backyard that we put an AC unit into. So I am not leaving this prayer shed until I'm free forever. Like, unless I know that I will never choose this sin again for the rest of my life, I am not leaving. And literally, guys, I meant it so much. Like, I would have dropped out of school 100%. I would have missed even if my own wedding fell through, like Megan breaks up with me and moves on. Like, of course I didn't expect to be locked in that shed for 6 months, but I didn't really care how long it took or what the other consequences were for my action. Like, similar to Phineas, like, he just killed 2 people, like, there were some severe consequences to what he did. But in that moment of that choice that he made, it was not so calculated. It was not so cautious. It was not like, what's the one minor change we can make to then iterate that day after day, and then we can grow. It's like, no, I'm doing it now, and I don't care what the ripple effects are, because it is that important. So that's the moment that I'm trying to describe. And for me, it looks like I'm going into this prayer shed. I'm not going out until I'm free forever. And I don't care what the consequences are, because nothing else matters more to me right now. And nothing else has hindered me more in the past decade of my life than this. And so I'm praying, I'm worshiping, spending time with the Lord, but then this anger just wells up more and more. It becomes intense. Like, I've never ever experienced anger that intensely before that or since then. It was dramatic. It was the most intense experience of my entire life. I described it as like a berserk frenzy. It was like It was crazy. And I'm not gonna impersonate it for you because it still feels like sensitive. It still feels heavy in my heart. And I remember that night, you know. It ended up being about an all-nighter. Went to bed around 6 or 7 a.m. And I was still mad because of my own sin, you know. But as I was in the prayer shed, you know, I'm praying, worshiping, whatever, repenting, all that stuff. And then I started going into some scripture reciting, and I had a little bulletin corkboard with some scriptures that I had pinned up against it. And some of them were, it's like I started yelling at God, basically, but I was like screaming uncontrollably, you know. Like I just wanted to like smash and destroy everything. But for example, like there's a verse, I don't know the reference right now, but it's Old Testament scripture. It's like, be holy therefore as I am holy. And there was another one that was like talking about how it was a promise from God saying, I will be your God and you will be my people. And those are two verses I remember specifically, although there were several others that just made me livid. Like, God, you're the one that said that you will be our God. You're the one that said that we'll be your people. You're the one that said, be holy. You're the one that said, as I am holy. Like, you are the holy one. I'm not holy. You have to make me holy. Like, you have to make me your people. I can't do it. I can't earn it. I've tried everything I can freaking try, you know? And, like, I have nothing else to give. You can have everything. I've already given you everything. Like, so just do it, you know? And you can use me, you know? Like, you can use me now, sure, but you can probably use me with greater weight and responsibility and fruit if I wasn't addicted to pornography. I know you don't want me addicted to pornography. I don't want to be addicted. So, God, do it, you know? Like, I just became really mad at him for, like, not releasing me from it yet, is what it felt like. So I was just screaming. And he was just speaking words of kindness and how he loves me, and like he would say he loves me, and I'd be pissed. I'm like, I don't care that you love me. You know, like, again, this was not a balanced moment. This was a Numbers 25 moment. I don't care. Like, that's great. I know I'm your son. I know I'm a part of your family. Of course, I'm thankful for that. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. Like, I want to be pure. And so, anyways, hours and hours on end, to the point where I have no voice. Like, even a whisper, a normal talking, like, no sound was coming out. There's just so much fiery pain in my throat from the screaming. And there were different things I felt like God was saying, but like, and then I just kind of like sat in there for a little bit as my throat was on fire, and it was just like this sense of like, I'm done. It was hard to explain, but I haven't chosen sin since then. I haven't watched pornography. I haven't masturbated. It's great. I'm so thankful. And again, this is a little bit hard to describe and even harder to recreate. You know, you just can't. An unbalanced zeal, it's rare to have a moment where you feel that way. Like, especially now, our culture really values balance. Our culture really values don't do anything too extreme. And those things can be hindrances to you getting what you really need. But guess what, guys? I didn't drop out of college. I didn't have to miss my wedding day. Like, the consequences of that moment with the Lord are a net win, for sure. And so, just want to share that piece of my journey. It's a really marking night in my life, and just have faith for you too. If you or someone you know is stuck in something, like, of course, like for me, there was a 10-year journey, or I guess 7 years of actually trying to get free. So it's hard to describe it like an overnight success, but there was very much one night that 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 I grabbed the spear and I just stabbed it through the heart of my bondage to sin and just let it bleed out. I mean, I'm just so thankful. It's really hard to even like think about this memory because it's like, was that even me? Like, it's just so intense. So intense. But hey, guys, if y'all are hungry for freedom, I invite you to go for it. And I've been a part of plenty of altar calls and conferences centered around this topic. And hey, let's leave it here tonight. Let's nail it on the cross. Let's throw it in the fire. Let's, declare this. Let's do that. And again, none of those were it for me. And it doesn't mean they weren't for anyone else. But what I'm saying is that there's that zeal that you just can't just choose. But you can certainly pray for it. And for me, it was a combination of disgust and anger and pain, hardship, suffering, conviction. And it just all culminated in this night where I was willing to do anything. And so, hey, maybe there's something there for you. Numbers 25. Read it. It's a crazy story. Much crazier than what I'm describing. But that's all I got for y'all today. It's Beckham's birthday. We're going to go to a water park. Maybe get a little wet. A little splash. He's 4 years old, y'all. Big foe. I'll talk to y'all soon. Life is worship. God is love.